Hello, fellow smallmouth anglers. It's Tim Landwehr, Tight Lines Fly Fishing. Little tutorial right now. Some of the stuff that's come out of our smallmouth book. A lot of you may already have the smallmouth book that the guys at the shop and Dave Karzinski wrote. But this time of the year is a pretty special time of the year. And the reason I say that is something very unique is happening. It happens at the end of the May, first part of June. And the smallmouth really love it. We get a giant migration of dragonfly nymphs that are coming towards the shoreline. We get a lot of them in a lot of the rivers and stuff that a lot of you may be fishing. You're going to have the same kind of thing happening, and it's kind of tricky to identify it unless you see them on the shoreline. But what we've found over the years is the smallmouth absolutely love them. Charlie Pate from the shop years ago did a pattern in here that's called Pate's Dragon Dropper. It's right here. It's basically a dragonfly dropper tied on a stout enough hook that adds some extra weight to it that gets it down. It's not a super heavily weighted fly. It sinks at a reasonable level. But what we do at this time of the year, pretty much from end of May for the first couple weeks of June, is we're fishing a dropper rig for our smallmouth. Some states you can't fish two hooks at once, but in Wisconsin we can. So what we do at this time of the year that's incredibly effective is we'll take a standard popper like a boogle bug. So many of you are familiar with that boogle bug popper, and maybe the bigger one so it supports the weight a little bit more. And then we'll run maybe 12, 14 inches of OX or 1X. I have 2X on here now, fluorocarbon, because it'll help sink that line in between the two components. But the popping bug will sit up here, and that dragonfly nymph will sit down here. And basically, you're just using the popper dropper system as this is your strike indicator, and you can easily tell when you get a bite because he moves and the fish is on. Or a lot of times the fish will eat the popper as well. And then right there is your nymph dropper. You don't have to make this exceptionally long. Make it very easy to cast. Very, very simple. But you cast that out, and you let that drift along those lines in not terribly deep water, kind of closer towards the edges, or enough deep water that you're not hanging up a whole lot on, and allow that to drift down, and those fish will just pick up those dragonflies. It's a very unique time of the year because this really is a technique that can be used all season long. But I will say that this technique works incredibly well during the first couple of weeks of June when we're seeing those big dragonfly migrations. So it's just another tool in your kit. And we've had a couple of guides that have been out fishing this real hard in the last week and a half. And what we're finding, a lot of times we may get 6-1 on that dropper over the popper right now in some of that water. So it's a great time of the year. Our fish, we're now moving into that post-spawn part of the season. A bunch of the bigger females are starting to show back up, and we're getting them. But the other advantage here is, and I've had this a number of times, if you think one smallmouth fights hard, sometimes you get two at once. Sometimes they'll eat that popping bug, dive down, and here's that other nymph here, and then that follower will grab that other nymph. You almost always break them off, but it's a super cool technique. So again, popper, dropper, it's in our smallmouth book. We talk about this and some of the other details on fishing that top water, but spool of fluoro, keep it short, keep it realistic, and go out and catch them. Just another tool in that toolbox.